Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. Our guest today is Kenya's Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, Amina Mohamed. Thank you very much for being with us. We're going to be talking about a variety of issues, but I want to begin with the terrorism issue. Everyone remembers vividly the tragic events of the Westgate over a year ago. Since then, Kenya has been hit several times, including in its capital, Nairobi, by terrorist attacks from al-Shabaab. Is it still a major threat for Kenya?
I think it's a major threat for everybody. I think it's a major threat for everybody. Let me say this, that since the Westgate attack, 1 year and a few weeks ago, we actually have not had a major attack. And that's because we've been able to inject a lot of resources into security. We've been able to recruit more. We've been able to cooperate much more with the various international agencies, including France, of course, but also Germany, the UK, Canada, Australia, the US, Israel. So we've been working a lot with our friends and neighbors. But most importantly, I think the support that we've had from the neighboring countries, the systems we've put in place between us and all the countries in the region, where we are able to talk to each other at very short notice, where we are able to prevent attacks quite successfully.
Did you prevent major attacks since this Westgate mall?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I really am not at liberty to speak about all the attacks that have been prevented. But there was one in Uganda that was actually very publicly discussed and that was prevented because all the agencies in our region were working closely together, but they were also working with international partners and friends. Right. And so we're able to detect, to apprehend, and to even find the stockpiles that had been taken across the border from Kenya, and to stop the attack.
Right. I mean, the border protection is still an issue. Just very recently, the Kenyan police announced that it had arrested 10 suspected al-Shabaab militants, including 2 women, suspected suicide bomber. This is according to the Inspector General of the police, who has accused them of planning to carry out attacks and being involved in recent attacks in Nairobi.
Well, not recent attacks in Nairobi, because we haven't had a major attack in Nairobi, like I said. The last one was the Westgate.
But people are sneaking through that border.
Absolutely, and it happens everywhere. I think that you have that in almost every country that has a wide and long border with its neighbors. We have a very long border with Somalia, and from time to time, obviously, things like that will happen. And the good news is that we are able to apprehend them before anything actually happens.
Right. But for you, the main problem is still in Somalia. This is Absolutely. Where the solution is. We've known that there have been lots of raids against al-Shabaab. Its leader was killed in a U.S. drone strike recently. Is it still there, or has the terrorist threat become more regional?
I think the source is still there. The source is still there. And may there be some sleeping cells elsewhere? I think like all other countries in the world, they may be. But the source is still there. And that's why, for us as a region, the issue of settling Somalia, of stabilizing Somalia, has been such a priority.
Is it working? Because
absolutely.
You think working. Somalia is on its way back?
Absolutely, absolutely. Somalia is doing very well now.
The president has been attacked several times. How can
Yes, I mean, you know what? That comes with the territory. As you stabilize countries, things do happen, right? And of course, Somalia is not yet out of the woods, but it's doing so much better. The Somali National Army, better trained, better capacity, better results. The regions doing much better. Mogadishu, much more normal than it has ever been.
Is al-Shabaab losing the war?
Yes, it is, and it's on the run.
You think it's on the run?
It's on the run. It's on the run, definitely. I think that the combination of our international partners doing what they're doing in Somalia and the regional military forces that are on the ground now, from Djibouti, from Ethiopia, from Kenya, from Rwanda, Burundi, from Uganda, Sierra Leone, even with all its issues, still has a police force. Nigeria, right, supporting us all the way. So basically, with the African Union forces, right, and the re-energized Somali National Army, and a government that is driven, right, by the right priorities now, as the Somali federal government is, making sure that the systems are in place, that people are going back to their normal lives, that schools are operating, that the malls and the markets are operating, that the ports are operating, So there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of, a lot of people's aspirations that are being met right now in Somalia.
You think,
we're very hopeful.
Are you hopeful that al-Shabaab will be eradicated soon?
We are hopeful that we are doing the best that we can to make sure that they are diminished, right? And that finally that we can actually begin to normalize everything in Somalia. When you talk about eradication of forces like those, it's always a big question mark, and just look around all of us and see what's happening in the rest of the world. And that's why we are so pleased and so hopeful with the results that we've been able to maintain in Somalia, together with the Somali government, of course.
Okay, I want to get to a second issue where Kenya has been in the news, the International Criminal Court. Uhuru Kenyatta, your president, became the first serving head of state to appear before the ICC. He's charged with crimes against humanity, especially for inciting violence after the election back in 2017. The court has been accusing Kenya of trying to derail the trial chamber specifically referred recently to the leaking of details of a confidential request. Is Kenya trying to sabotage that trial?
I think, look, let me answer it this way, that first of all, I don't think that there's any country, especially not in this hemisphere, not in the West, that has ever been as close as we have been to the International Criminal Court. We know it personally. We know it very closely. We have worked with it since 2009.
And what's your verdict on the court?
Right? And we are state parties to the Rome Statute. Yeah. So there is absolutely no way that as member states that we could refuse to cooperate. And if we refuse to cooperate, honestly, right, you wouldn't find our head of state and our deputy head of state, right, paying so much attention to the court, and the deputy head of state actually present, right, sitting in court during all his hearings. You would not have had that. Okay, so we're fully cooperating with the court. The court has raised issues. We're addressing those issues, and I've continued to address them. But we are good, law-abiding state parties.
You're not trying to derail that trial.
Why would we do it now? Why would we do it now? Well, all indications are very, very clear that, in fact, these cases hopefully will be over soon. Why would we do that now?
Why are you optimistic it will be over soon? What do you expect to happen?
Well, you have been watching the news. You've seen the witnesses coming forward. You've seen the evidence that's coming forward. I don't know whether you remember the O.J. Simpson case, if the glove doesn't fit.
Do you think the president will be soon off the hook, as we say?
Well, we are, really, if you're looking at all the evidence that has been presented, if you're looking at the information that's coming through, if you're looking at the witnesses that have been interviewed, if you're looking at the court sessions that we have been participating in, right, then the hope is there. The hope is definitely there. It's not a matter of me thinking. The judges will have to obviously make their own verdict, right? And, come with a clear, judgment. But we're hopeful.
Do you think the ICC is racist, as one African head of state said a few months ago?
It's very difficult for me as a Minister of Foreign Affairs to comment on the words of another of a head of state of an African country.
But you may have an opinion on that.
Because, he's also my head of state, right? As a foreign minister, he's one of my bosses. So you're putting me in a difficult situation if you're asking me to actually respond to something that a president had said. Yes. If it was something that a minister like myself had said, then it would be easier for me to comment on. But a president...
But many people have said the court is biased. It only deals with Africans and not others.
Let the court address itself to that.
Okay.
we let the court address itself to that, because the issues are not being raised about Kenya, they're not being raised about us, they're being raised about the court. So the court needs to do some soul searching and find out why that issue comes up, right? I mean, because if it wasn't real, it wouldn't come up. I don't think people are standing there and pointing fingers at the court. That they, and this is the most, I think, important point that I will make today. This court did not fall from the sky. This court was established by us. And the majority of the members, right, to the Rome Statute are African. 34 African members signed up to the Rome Statute. We established this court. This is our court. And therefore, we lay claim to it. And like all our courts and all our judicial systems, right, we will criticize it when we need to criticize it. We will commend it when we need to commend it, when it's doing a good job. It's part of our judicial system. So we are owners of the court. We own it like everybody else.
Very, very quickly, is President Kenyatta coming to France?
Yes. Yes, there is an invitation that was sent to him by the President of the Republic of France, and the invitation is before him, and we're looking at possible dates of travel to Paris. We're all looking forward. I have really enjoyed my time. I've really had wonderful meetings, very, very productive. Meeting with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Laurent Fabius, and meeting with the Minister for Trade, meeting with the business community this morning. Everybody very happy to be doing work in Kenya. I think you know that we have doubled the number of companies that are working in Kenya, the French companies that are working in Kenya. All your big names are actually in Kenya. From 33 just a few years ago, we have 68. But today I was told that MEDEC actually has underneath it as a membership 1 million companies. So 68 is still a drop in the ocean. And I have made it clear that we in Kenya would be very happy to have 500 French companies working with us, partnering with us.
Okay, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much.
You.
We'll see if that comes true. And when the president visits France, he'll surely make some more lobbying for that. Thank you very much, Amina Mohamed, for coming on the France 24/7.